Chapter 1. The Timeless Tome. The bustling streets of Varenthia were alive with the hum of midday activity, the air thick with the aroma of street vendors' offerings and the chatter of passers-by. Daniel Prescott maneuvered through the throng with practiced ease, his mind set on a destination that had become somewhat of a curiosity in recent days. The Timeless Tome, a quaint bookstore sandwiched between towering buildings of glass and steel, had caught his attention with its unassuming charm. The shop's sign, painted in faded gold letters, swung gently above the door, creaking in the soft breeze. As Daniel pushed open the door, a small bell tinkled above his head, announcing his arrival. The interior was a haven of warmth and nostalgia. The scent of aged paper mingled with the soft glow of gas lamps, casting a golden hue over the shelves, crammed with books of all shapes and sizes. "Welcome to the Timeless Tome," came a voice from behind a stack of novels piled precariously high. Eleanor Hawthorne emerged, her presence as enigmatic as the shop itself. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a loose bun, and her eyes sparkled with an intelligence that seemed to pierce through the mundane. "How can I assist you today?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, taken aback by her directness. "I was just browsing," he replied, his voice echoing softly in the cozy space. Eleanor's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Browsing can often lead to discovery," she said cryptically. "But perhaps you're looking for something more specific." He shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "I've heard about this place from a few friends. They say you have some rather unique collections." "Indeed we do," Eleanor replied, her tone layered with subtext that hinted at stories untold. "In fact, there's something I think might pique your interest." She led him through narrow aisles until they reached a corner where an ancient wooden table stood, laden with an assortment of weathered tomes. With a reverent gesture, Eleanor picked up a particularly worn volume and handed it to Daniel. The cover bore the title, The Chronicles of Echo, its letters embossed in faded gold. "This is one of our most intriguing manuscripts," Eleanor explained, her voice hushed as if sharing a secret. "It's an ancient text, shrouded in mystery and steeped in tales of love and betrayal." Daniel took the book carefully, feeling the weight of its history settle into his hands. As he flipped through its pages, he couldn't shake the uncanny sensation that the story resonated with him on a deeply personal level. "There's something about it," he murmured, more to himself than to Eleanor. "Yes," she agreed softly, her gaze thoughtful. "Many who read it feel an unexpected connection." They spent the next hour discussing the manuscript's intricate tapestry of characters and events. Eleanor's sharp wit and literary references painted vivid pictures in Daniel's mind, each layer of conversation revealing more about her complex past. "You seem to know an awful lot about this book," Daniel remarked, his curiosity piqued. Eleanor met his gaze evenly. "Let's just say I've spent considerable time unraveling its mysteries." Their dialogue flowed naturally, each exchange deepening Daniel's intrigue not only in the manuscript but in Eleanor herself. Her guarded nature hinted at stories untold, and he found himself drawn to the challenge of uncovering them. As he prepared to leave, Daniel paused at the door. "I'll be back," he promised, holding up the manuscript. Eleanor nodded, her expression inscrutable. "The Timeless Tome will be waiting." With that, Daniel stepped back into the bustling streets of Varenthia, the echoes of their conversation lingering in his mind like a melody unfinished. The manuscript weighed heavily in his bag, a tangible reminder of mysteries yet to be unraveled. The sun dipped low on the horizon as Daniel made his way home, his thoughts consumed by the day's events. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Chronicles of Echo held more than just stories within its pages. It seemed to whisper secrets that danced tantalizingly out of reach. That night, as he sat by his window overlooking Varenthia's twinkling lights, Daniel opened the manuscript once more. Each word seemed to pulse with life, drawing him into its world with an intensity that left him breathless. He read late into the night, losing himself in tales of love lost and promises broken. As dawn broke over Varenthia, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Daniel finally set the book aside. Exhaustion tugged at him, but beneath it lay a deeper sense of urgency, a need to return to the Timeless Tome and continue unraveling the threads that bound fiction to reality. And so, with the first light of day spilling over his desk, Daniel made a silent vow. He would uncover the secrets within those pages and discover what connected them to his own life. For now, though, he allowed himself a brief moment of rest, knowing full well that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything. Chapter 2. Unveiling Echoes. The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of Daniel's modest apartment, casting intricate patterns across the floor. He awoke with a sense of purpose, the manuscript's mysteries still whispering in his mind. Today, he would return to the Timeless Tome, driven by an unyielding curiosity and an inexplicable pull towards both the book and its enigmatic guardian, Eleanor Hawthorne. The streets of Varenthia bustled with life as Daniel made his way back to the bookstore, the city's heartbeat a comforting rhythm beneath his feet. His thoughts drifted back to the previous day's conversation with Eleanor, her sharp wit and the subtle hints of her own story woven into their dialogue. There was something about her, a depth that mirrored the complexity of the Chronicles of Echo, urging him to delve deeper. As he approached the Timeless Tome, Daniel noticed a figure standing outside, peering intently at the shop's sign. The woman turned at the sound of his footsteps, revealing a kind face lined with the wisdom of years. Her eyes sparkled with an energy that belied her age. "You must be Daniel," she said, extending a hand in greeting. "I'm Millie Hawthorne, Eleanor's aunt." Daniel shook her hand, noting the strength in her grip. "Nice to meet you, Millie. Eleanor mentioned you yesterday." "Did she now?" Millie chuckled softly. "I suppose she didn't tell you that I practically raised her in this very shop." He smiled, intrigued by this new layer to Eleanor's story. "She did mention your knowledge of local history. Perhaps you can help me understand more about this manuscript." Millie's eyes lit up with interest. "Ah, the Chronicles of Echo. A fascinating piece, isn't it? Come inside and let's see what we can uncover." Inside, the bookstore felt like a sanctuary from the world's chaos. Eleanor greeted them with a nod from behind the counter, her expression softening at the sight of her aunt. Daniel followed Millie to a cozy nook where a small table was set with tea and biscuits. "Eleanor has always had a knack for finding the extraordinary in the ordinary," Millie remarked as they settled in. "She's quite taken with that manuscript, though she may not admit it." Daniel sipped his tea, savoring the warmth. "What can you tell me about its origins?" Millie leaned back, her gaze thoughtful. "The manuscript has been in our family for generations, passed down like a well-guarded secret. Its tales are deeply intertwined with Windmere's history. Our town is full of stories that echo those pages." Their conversation was interrupted by Eleanor's arrival, carrying a stack of books that she placed gently on the table. "I see my aunt has already started regaling you with tales of old," she said with a wry smile. "Just setting the stage," Millie replied with a wink. Eleanor joined them, her presence commanding yet inviting. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, Daniel, about feeling a connection to the manuscript." Daniel nodded, encouraged by her openness. "It's almost as if the story reflects parts of my own life, though I can't quite put my finger on how." "Perhaps it's not just your life," Eleanor mused, her fingers tracing the cover of the manuscript, "but all our lives." Stories have a way of revealing truths we might otherwise overlook. Their dialogue flowed naturally, each word peeling back layers of understanding. As they spoke, Daniel noticed how Eleanor's guarded nature seemed to soften around her aunt, revealing glimpses of vulnerability and warmth. Millie listened intently, occasionally interjecting with anecdotes from Windmere's past that resonated with the manuscript's narrative. Her encyclopedic knowledge painted vivid pictures of bygone eras, drawing parallels between history and fiction. "The characters in the Chronicles of Echo, they remind me of people I've known," Millie said thoughtfully. "It's as if the book is a mirror reflecting our lives back at us." Eleanor nodded in agreement. "That's what makes it so compelling, and perhaps why it feels so personal to each reader." As they continued to unravel the manuscript's mysteries, Daniel felt an unexpected sense of camaraderie with these two women, a shared journey into the heart of a story that seemed to transcend time and place. Their conversation stretched into the afternoon, interrupted only by the occasional customer browsing through the shelves. With each passing hour, Daniel found himself more enmeshed in the fabric of Windmere's history and its connection to the Chronicles of Echo. Eventually, Millie rose from her chair, excusing herself with a promise to return soon. "I've some records at home that might shed more light on our discussion," she said with a conspiratorial smile. After Millie left, Daniel turned to Eleanor. "Your aunt is remarkable," he said appreciatively. Eleanor's eyes softened with affection. "She is, and she's right about one thing. This manuscript holds echoes of our pasts." There was a pause, filled with unspoken possibilities and the gentle rustle of pages turning in the background. "I should get going too," Daniel finally said, reluctant to leave, but knowing he needed time to process everything he'd learned. Eleanor nodded, her expression contemplative. "Take your time with it," she advised gently. "Stories like these, they have a way of revealing themselves when we're ready." As Daniel stepped out into the fading light of evening, he felt an odd sense of fulfillment, a feeling that he was exactly where he needed to be. The manuscript nestled securely under his arm was more than just an ancient text. It was a key to understanding not only Windmere's history, but perhaps his own as well. The echoes of past lives whispered through its pages, promising revelations yet to come. And as he made his way home under Verenthia's twinkling street lamps, Daniel felt a quiet anticipation for what lay ahead, a journey into stories untold and destinies intertwined. That night, as he settled into bed with the Chronicles of Echo open before him, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that he stood on the brink of discovery, a revelation that would forever change his understanding of fiction and reality. With each word he read, he became more entwined in its world, a world where stories held power beyond imagination and where echoes from forgotten pages promised new beginnings. And so he read on into the night, knowing full well that this was only the beginning. A journey not just through history, but towards understanding himself and those around him in ways he'd never imagined possible. Chapter 3, Conversations with the Past. The morning sun cast a gentle glow over Windmere, the town slowly stirring to life beneath its golden embrace. Daniel Prescott awoke with a renewed sense of purpose, the events of the previous day still vivid in his mind. The manuscript, the Chronicles of Echo, had become more than just an intriguing mystery. It was now a thread connecting him to the very fabric of Windmere's history and its people. After a quick breakfast, Daniel set out towards the Timeless Tome. The streets of Verenthia, familiar yet filled with an air of anticipation. He found himself pondering the conversations he'd had with Eleanor and Millie, their insights weaving a tapestry that seemed to mirror the manuscript's narrative. Today, he hoped to unravel more of its secrets and perhaps gain a deeper understanding of his own place within this story. As he approached the bookstore, Daniel spotted a figure tending to the small garden outside. It was Eleanor, Ellie Finch, the retired botanist known for her passion for plants and her penchant for botanical metaphors. She was an old friend of Millie's and someone Daniel had heard about but never met. "Good morning," Daniel greeted as he walked up to her. Ellie looked up from her work, her eyes twinkling with humor. "Ah, you must be Daniel, the young man causing quite a stir at the Timeless Tome." Daniel chuckled, feeling at ease in her presence. "I suppose I am. It's nice to finally meet you, Ellie." She wiped her hands on her apron and extended one in greeting. "Pleasure's mine. Millie has spoken highly of you." They fell into easy conversation, Ellie sharing anecdotes about her years studying plants and how she believed their growth mirrored human development. "You see," she said, gesturing to a cluster of blooming flowers, "plants grow towards the light, much like we do when seeking truth or understanding." Daniel nodded, appreciating the metaphor. "That's what I'm hoping to find, some light amidst the shadows of this manuscript." Ellie's laughter was warm and infectious. "Ah, the elusive search for meaning. You're in good company, then. Millie and Eleanor have been at it for years." As they talked, Daniel felt a kinship with Ellie, her lively spirit and humor adding another layer to his understanding of Windmere's community. Their conversation drifted from plants to stories, each topic seamlessly intertwining like vines on a trellis. "You know," Ellie said thoughtfully, "stories are like seeds. They take root in our minds, growing and branching out until they become part of who we are." Daniel smiled, contemplating her words. "That's exactly how I feel about the Chronicles of Echo. It's as if it's becoming a part of me." Ellie nodded sagely. "Then you're on the right path. Just remember, growth takes time and patience." With those words echoing in his mind, Daniel bid Ellie farewell and continued into the Timeless Tome. Inside, the familiar scent of aged paper welcomed him like an old friend. Eleanor was at the counter, engrossed in a book, but looked up as he entered. "Back for more?" she asked with a knowing smile. "Absolutely," Daniel replied, his enthusiasm evident. "I met Ellie outside. She's quite remarkable." Eleanor's expression softened. "She is." Her perspective always brings clarity to things that seem tangled. They settled into their usual corner with the manuscript spread out before them. As they delved into its pages once more, Eleanor shared more about her own experiences with the text. "You know," she began, her voice thoughtful, "when I first read the Chronicles of Echo, it felt like I was reading about my own life, like someone had captured my secrets and fears within its pages." Daniel listened intently, sensing that Eleanor was opening up in a way she hadn't before. "Do you think that's why it resonates so deeply with people?" "Perhaps," Eleanor mused. "Or maybe it's because we all have echoes of past lives within us, stories we've lived or long forgotten." Their dialogue was punctuated by moments of silence as they absorbed each other's words and the manuscript's revelations. Daniel found himself increasingly drawn to Eleanor's story, intrigued by the parallels between her life and the narrative unfolding before them. As the afternoon wore on, Millie returned with a stack of old records and documents tucked under her arm. She joined them at the table, her presence bringing a renewed energy to their exploration. "I found some interesting bits here," Millie announced, spreading the papers across the table. Daniel leaned in eagerly as Millie began recounting tales from Windmere's past, stories that mirrored those within the manuscript in uncanny ways. Each revelation added another piece to the puzzle, blurring the line between fiction and reality even further. "These records," Millie explained, "suggest that many events in the Chronicles of Echo are based on real occurrences here in Windmere." Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. "It's as if history repeats itself through these stories, each generation living out its own version." Their conversation continued late into the evening, fueled by tea and curiosity. With each passing hour, Daniel felt more connected to both the manuscript and the people around him, an intricate web woven from threads of history and personal discovery. As dusk settled over Varenthia, casting long shadows across the bookstore floor, Daniel knew he was only beginning to understand the true depth of the Chronicles of Echo. Yet there was comfort in knowing he wasn't alone on this journey. Eleanor and Millie were by his side, guiding him through uncharted territory with wisdom and warmth. When it was finally time to leave, Daniel paused at the door once more. "Thank you," he said earnestly to both women. Millie waved off his gratitude with a smile. "We're just getting started, dear boy." Eleanor met his gaze steadily. "We'll uncover its secrets together." With those words lingering in his mind like an unspoken promise, Daniel stepped back into the night, a world illuminated by street lamps and stars alike, knowing full well that tomorrow would bring new discoveries and deeper connections to explore. And so ended another chapter in his journey, a journey defined not just by stories told, but by lives intertwined through echoes from forgotten pages yet to be fully revealed. Chapter 4. Secrets Unraveled. The town of Windmere was cloaked in a serene morning mist, the kind that seemed to wrap the world in a gentle embrace, blurring the edges of reality just enough to make everything feel like a dream. Daniel Prescott stood by his window, sipping his coffee as he watched the mist lift slowly, revealing the familiar streets below. Today, he felt a weight on his shoulders, a sense of impending revelation that both excited and unnerved him. With a resolute sigh, he set his mug down and prepared to face the day. The manuscript, the Chronicles of Echo, had unearthed more questions than answers, and he was determined to delve deeper into its mysteries. But it wasn't just the manuscript that occupied his thoughts. It was Eleanor Hawthorne, and the stories she held close to her heart. As he made his way to the Timeless Tome, Daniel's mind replayed their last conversation. Eleanor had opened up about her own connection to the manuscript, hinting at parallels between its tale of forbidden love and her past. He sensed there was much more beneath the surface, secrets that could alter their understanding of both the manuscript and themselves. When Daniel arrived at the bookstore, Eleanor was already there, organizing a new shipment of books with an efficiency that belied her usual enigmatic demeanor. She looked up as he entered, her expression softening into a smile that seemed both welcoming and wary. "Good morning," Daniel greeted, his tone light yet probing. "Morning," Eleanor replied, brushing a stray lock of auburn hair behind her ear. "Ready to dive back into our favorite mystery?" "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes meeting hers with an unspoken understanding. "But first, I think we need to talk." Eleanor hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I suppose we do." They settled into their usual nook, the manuscript resting between them like a silent witness to their unfolding story. Daniel took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "You mentioned feeling a connection to the manuscript," he began, "that it mirrors parts of your life." Eleanor's gaze dropped to the table, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the wood. "Yes," she admitted softly. "There are echoes of my past within its pages, stories I've lived and those I've tried to forget." Daniel listened intently, sensing the vulnerability in her voice. "What happened?" She sighed deeply, gathering her thoughts. "Years ago, I fell in love with someone I shouldn't have. It was complicated. Our families were against it, much like the lovers in the Chronicles of Echo. In the end, we were torn apart by circumstances beyond our control." He nodded, understanding dawning on him. "And that's why the manuscript feels so personal." "Exactly," Eleanor said, meeting his eyes with a mix of defiance and sadness. "It's like reliving my own story every time I read it." Their conversation hung in the air, charged with emotion and unspoken truths. Daniel reached across the table, his hand hovering over hers in a gesture of support. "Thank you for sharing that with me," he said sincerely. "I know it's not easy." Eleanor smiled faintly, withdrawing her hand but not her warmth. "It's part of who I am, and perhaps part of why this place means so much to me." Their dialogue was interrupted by Millie Hawthorne's arrival, her presence as grounding as ever. She carried a small box filled with yellowed letters and photographs, artifacts from Windmere's past that might hold further clues. "Ah, just in time for the revelations," Millie quipped, setting the box on the table with a flourish. Eleanor chuckled, some of the tension easing from her shoulders. "Always the dramatic entrance." Millie winked at her niece before turning to Daniel. "I found some interesting things here, letters and records that might shed light on our manuscript's origins." Together, they sifted through the contents of the box, each item a fragment of history waiting to be pieced together. As they worked, Millie shared anecdotes about Windmere's past, tales of love and loss that seemed to echo those within the Chronicles of Echo. "This letter," Millie said, holding up a delicate piece of parchment, "mentions a couple whose story bears striking resemblance to our manuscript's protagonists." Daniel took the letter gingerly, reading its faded words aloud. As he did, he felt a chill run down his spine, the same chill he experienced when reading certain passages in the manuscript. "It's uncanny," he murmured, exchanging glances with Eleanor. Millie nodded knowingly. "Our town's history is woven into those pages more than we realized." Their conversation continued well into the afternoon, each revelation drawing them closer to understanding the true nature of the Chronicles of Echo. With every discovery, Daniel felt more connected to Eleanor and Millie, three lives intertwined by fate and fiction alike. As dusk settled over Varenthia once more, Daniel knew they were on the brink of something significant, an unraveling that would change their perception of both past and present. Eleanor stood up, stretching her arms above her head with a sigh. "We've made progress today," she said with quiet satisfaction. "We have," Daniel agreed. "But I feel like there's still more to uncover." Millie gathered up the letters and photographs with practiced care. "There always is," she remarked wisely. "The past has a way of revealing itself when we're ready." As they prepared to leave for the evening, Daniel paused at the door once again, this time feeling not just anticipation, but hope for what lay ahead. "Thank you both," he said earnestly, looking from Eleanor to Millie, "for trusting me with your stories." Eleanor met his gaze steadily. "We're all part of this journey now, bound by echoes from forgotten pages." With those words resonating in his mind like an unspoken promise, Daniel stepped out into the night, a world illuminated by street lamps and stars alike, knowing full well that tomorrow would bring new discoveries and deeper connections to explore. And so ended another chapter in his journey. A journey defined not just by stories told, but by lives intertwined through echoes from forgotten pages yet to be fully revealed. That night, as Daniel lay awake under Varenthia's starlit sky, he couldn't shake the feeling that they stood on the brink of discovery, a revelation that would forever change their understanding of fiction and reality alike. With each passing day, spent unraveling secrets long buried within Windmere's history and within themselves too, they grew closer not just as allies but as friends bound by shared destinies, shaped by echoes from forgotten pages yet untold. And so he drifted into sleep with hope in his heart, knowing full well that this was only beginning. A journey not just through history, but towards understanding himself and those around him in ways he'd never imagined possible before now. Chapter 5. Rewriting Destinies. The town of Windmere awoke to a crisp morning, the air tinged with the promise of change. Daniel Prescott felt it too, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that mirrored the transformation within him. As he prepared for another day at the Timeless Tome, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something monumental, a revelation that would redefine their understanding of the Chronicles of Echo and their own lives. The streets of Varenthia were alive with the usual bustle, yet Daniel moved through them with a newfound clarity. The manuscript had become more than a mystery to solve. It was a mirror reflecting his journey towards self-discovery and redemption. With each page he turned, he felt the weight of history and destiny intertwining, a reminder that stories held power beyond imagination. As he approached the bookstore, Daniel noticed Eleanor Hawthorne standing outside, her gaze fixed on the horizon as if searching for answers in the morning light. Her presence was a comfort, a steady anchor amidst the swirling uncertainties of the past few weeks. "Good morning," Daniel greeted, his voice warm with camaraderie. Eleanor turned to him, her expression thoughtful yet hopeful. "Morning, Daniel. Ready for another day of unraveling?" "More than ever," he replied, falling into step beside her as they entered the Timeless Tome together. Inside, the familiar scent of aged paper enveloped them, a testament to the countless stories housed within its walls. Eleanor led the way to their usual corner, where Millie Hawthorne was already seated with an assortment of documents spread before her. "Ah, our intrepid explorers," Millie teased, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "I've been waiting for you two." Eleanor chuckled softly, her affection for her aunt evident. "We wouldn't miss it for the world." They settled into their seats, the manuscript open before them like an old friend ready to divulge its secrets. Daniel felt a sense of anticipation building, a knowledge that today would bring revelations not just about the text, but about themselves as well. As they delved into the Chronicles of Echo, Eleanor shared insights gleaned from her own experiences. Her vulnerability was palpable, yet empowering, a reminder that embracing one's past was key to shaping a new future. "You know," Eleanor began, her voice steady yet reflective, "I've spent so long running from my past, afraid it would define me forever. But now I see that those echoes don't have to bind us. They can guide us towards something better." Daniel nodded, understanding her sentiment all too well. "It's like rewriting our own stories, choosing how we want them to unfold." Their dialogue flowed naturally, each word peeling back layers of understanding and growth. As they spoke, Daniel realized how much he'd changed since first stepping into the Timeless Tome, how the manuscript had become a catalyst for transformation in ways he'd never anticipated. Millie listened intently, occasionally interjecting with anecdotes from Windmere's history that resonated with their journey. Her wisdom was a guiding light amidst the shadows of uncertainty, a reminder that stories held truths both old and new. "History has a way of repeating itself," Millie mused thoughtfully, "but it's up to us to decide whether we let it or forge our own paths." Their conversation was interrupted by Ellie Finch's arrival, her presence as vibrant as ever. She joined them at the table, bringing with her tales of resilience and growth drawn from nature's endless cycles. "Ah, I see I'm just in time for another chapter," Ellie quipped with a grin. "What have I missed?" Daniel filled her in on their progress, sharing insights gleaned from both the manuscript and their personal journeys. Ellie's laughter was infectious, a reminder that even amidst uncertainty there was joy to be found. "You know," Ellie said thoughtfully, "plants adapt to their environments, changing and evolving as needed. Maybe we can do the same." Her words resonated deeply with Daniel and Eleanor, an affirmation that change was not only possible but necessary for growth and healing. As they continued exploring the Chronicles of Echo, Daniel felt an unexpected sense of liberation, a freedom from echoes long past that had once held him captive. Together with Eleanor and Millie, and now Ellie too, they were rewriting destinies shaped by shared histories yet untold. By afternoon's end, they had uncovered new layers within both text and self, a tapestry woven from threads of love lost yet found anew, betrayals forgiven yet lessons learned, futures once uncertain now filled with possibility. With dusk settling over Varenthia once more, casting long shadows across bookstore floor, Daniel knew they were on brink not just discovery but transformation too, an unraveling that would change everything forevermore. As they prepared leave for evening, each carrying newfound hope within hearts, Daniel paused door once again. "Thank you all," he said earnestly, looking around at friends bound by shared destinies, shaped by echoes from forgotten pages. Eleanor met his gaze steadily. "We're rewriting our stories together." With those words lingering mind like unspoken promise, Daniel stepped out into night. A world illuminated by street lamps, stars alike, knowing full well tomorrow would bring new discoveries, deeper connections explore. And so ended another chapter journey. Not just stories told, but lives intertwined through echoes, forgotten pages yet fully revealed. That night, as Daniel lay awake under starlit sky, he couldn't shake feeling they stood brink discovery. A revelation would forever change understanding fiction reality alike. With each passing day spent unraveling secrets long buried within Windmere's history, within themselves too, they grew closer, not just allies but friends bound by shared destinies, shaped by echoes, forgotten pages yet untold. And so drifted into sleep, hope heart, knowing full well this only beginning. A journey not just through history but towards understanding himself, those around him, ways he'd never imagined possible before now.